Hi, Beetle. So there's a couple of things going on in that first video clip that I think need a little bit of explanation, a little context. So sometimes the space between boxes or frames and within the boxes get cross-combed, and in the cross-comb, the queen will often lay drone cells, and drones will develop as they're able to, going through their pupae stage and their larval stage and the pupae stage until they eventually emerge as full-grown drones. So there's that. The next thing is bees rely on protein to develop and feed other larvae. So the nurse bees in the box use the protein brought in by the bees to produce worker bee milk, queen milk if necessary. And these things are fed to the developing bees in the hive. They would prefer, of course, to use natural protein that comes in the form of pollen. So the flowers and the weeds and the trees and whatever is pollen producing. If the workers bring in pollen, store pollen, the nurse bees eat that pollen to make the milk to feed the young bees before their transformation. And also, bees will do pretty much whatever they can to maintain their lives before they starve out. So in the beginning of a season, in the spring, it's the starvation period. So that's usually when the queen has ramped up her production for the spring, and you have lots and lots of bees coming out and lots of work for the nurses to do, and there may not be any protein or enough protein to support the load that the queen is laying. Well, as nature would have it, we don't like to be wasteful, and although we don't like to think of them this way, bees are little cannibals. So it is very possible, if they're not getting protein from anything else, that they will start cannibalizing the larvae or the transforming baby bees, and they will never become grown-up bees. That said, they're also not very wasteful. Bees don't like being wasteful. So if there is something that occurs to larval bees that are still in the cells, and they can no longer develop, then they are a suitable protein source that the bees will be more than happy to consume. And it's good for them. And it's nature's way of making sure a hive doesn't overrun the environment that it comes from. If there's just not enough natural pollen, then there will not be as many baby bees because they will be eaten by the other bees. So that's what's going on in that video. So in this case, there was cross-comb between the second brood box and the feeder box, and that cross-comb contained a couple of drone cells, and they were developing into drones. Well, we were going in to feed them and to give them a pollen patty and sugar water and all of those things. But this was at the end of the week, so we try to feed them about once a week. A little bit earlier than that is too soon. A little bit later than that is too late, and they're already out of the resources that I gave them. So now they're living off of the resources that their workers collect in the fields. Early spring, you're in the starvation period where there is no resources being brought into the hive, and therefore cannibalism can run rampant. We try to prevent that by giving them food, but it's not always the case. So this time, we had actually gone into the hive in order to feed them, and in doing so disturbed some drone cone, which disturbed a drone larvae, which fell out of the comb, which essentially sentences them to death. They can't recover from that. And the bees, who are already hungry and already need protein and already feel like they don't need to be wasteful of such things, will jump on that larvae and feed on it voraciously until their appetite is soothed by either that or other means. So that's what's going on. Back to the video. Alright, so part of the beginning of the season is just to make sure the flow frames are still functional and closed and looking right. So we're just checking the frames. They're empty. The bees have not had access to these frames yet. So as far as cleanliness is concerned, I'm not terribly concerned that there's a bunch of yucky stuff in there. But the cells, do you want to the cells should be making octagons as opposed to. See, how's the end on this one?
Well, I don't know if I can. Like looking through the veil and the weird sun, I don't even know if we can see that in the picture.
Okay. Actually, they're closed anyway, so they just look like honeycomb. This frame is good. This frame is good. I don't know how all the frames on the middle have got mixed up. Yeah, this one's pretty good. Looks good. Is it interesting to talk about harvesting and how that works?
Not yet. We're not harvesting yet.
Okay. I know you guys are excitable, but it's a nice day. Go collect something. So I'm going to
Fix one anyway.
break several rules, and we do not have the honey flow has not started yet this spring, so they don't need this box, but they are getting crowded in the other two, and they are collecting, and we're outside of the starvation window because they are actively collecting on redbud and dandelion, and soon the mountain laurel will be opening up, and the agarita has already opened up, so we are outside of the starvation window.
Mountain laurel's way opened up.
Okay, well, not all of them. You can. So anyway, they're not going to starve, and I want to give them the opportunity to wander around those frames and begin their cleaning and waxing efforts prior to the honey flow, so that they're not wasting time then on trivial tasks that they could be doing now. All right, so, oh, I gotta put this back. Well, no, here. It is interesting, though, that last season these were our most protective, most defensive bees. So given that all the flow is on, or the spring is sprung, they should be much happier, much more content with life. But I'll tell you in a minute, or you'll be able to hear it in a minute.
Yeah, they didn't even try to come out. So they are
They're a
lot
lot more
nicer.
calm. So that's where we are. All 3 hives are opened up, and they have their extra box for them to get in and wander around and clean and wax as necessary, preparing for the honey flow, which will occur slightly later, say a month or 2 from right now. So all that box is providing them right now is early space to keep them from being crowded and bored, keeping them at work, and eventually that's where the honey will be stored that we will collect for this year's harvest, which we expect we will collect sometime around July, middle maybe end of July, and then everything else that they produce throughout the year is theirs to keep and to prepare for the upcoming winter, as it were. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's been a while since I've made one. So please leave any questions you might have in the comments, or just call me, whatever. Enjoy.